Mama, quit scaring me! So how do you like the mask? It's a killer. UATV found truly creative master in Kharkiv, who makes unique masks that are popular all around the globe. Why are so many people scared of clowns? There is a term that describes this fear, coulrophobia, which is not included on the official list of psychological disorders. Nevertheless, it appears that almost 42% of 2,000 residents of the US that were interviewed are afraid of clowns to some extent, according to an inquiry of Vox journalists conducted in 2016. Moreover, the results of the research show that coulrophobia was more intense in comparison to the fear of terrorist attacks, the death of close ones, or climate changes. Partially, this can be explained and associated with mass video footages where people dressed as clowns were staging some unpleasant acts, as well as famous mass culture products like horror movies and books. However, psychologists argue that coulrophobia develops in people's minds due to certain objective reasons. People are social beings, and their brains learn to differentiate the smallest changes in the mimics of others in the process of evolution. Such information is critical for survival. After all, people want to know if strangers pose a threat to their lives, and they have the right to subjectively choose a partner of their choice. That would be a good indicator of their health. Think clown makeup may be interpreted as a mask that is quite frightening for the average person. Psychological studies also revealed that people behave differently with a covered face, as they cannot be identified. In particular, many world cultures used masks when performing sacred rituals, believing that one gets closer to the world of spirits and can talk through a mask. This effect of transformation was also used in theaters during national festivals and carnivals. The uncertainty behind the mask can scary, but it is also intriguing. The contemporary master from Kharkiv creates such images today. I make masks. Sometimes I create notebooks, pistols, and bow ties, but I mostly focus on masks because creating masks is very challenging. They are different, and it is very difficult to make a mask that is similar to others. This unique style is called steampunk. Nonetheless, once one sees the works of Dmitry Obrahin, his particular style is definitely recognizable, namely the complexity of the composition, the unique details, and the specific taste. Every mask is far from simply a pile of gear wheels. The Ukrainian master achieved such a level that he often saw imitations of his works in worldwide internet stores. It was a copy. I mean that they scanned the mold or just sculptured it in the same manner. We found which firm made it. They wrote me that day. Sorry, we will check it out when we contact our designer. In the end, they pulled it out of basically every store where they were being sold. Watch next how small entrepreneur found out such a talent for unique objects in the middle of his life. How Dmitry Obrahin's masks are made and can they be copied? Why a master never works upon order. We spent the entire day with the Kharkiv mask master, and we were quite surprised by all the answers to our questions. Steampunk consists of gear wheels, steam engines, and aesthetics of the late 19th century. It is a popular subgenre of fiction that appeared and obtained a title along with the cyberpunk genre in 18. While cyberpunk is focused on a dark anti-utopia future with advanced technologies, steampunk concentrates on an alternative history of the European Victorian era, where people progress further with the help of steam and sometimes magic. One of the most popular examples in cinematography is the 1999 movie Wild Wild West, directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, and the latest blockbuster Mortal Engines, directed by Christian Rivers on the basis of the book by Philip Reeve. Steampunk may be entertaining and serious, cheerful or pessimistic, but this world has one distinctive aspect in unreal mechanisms that affect the plot, and the character usually wears old-fashioned but tasteful clothing. Dmitry Obrahin's masks fit very well into this setting, though some have a different opinion. Some people have a strong opinion that it is not steampunk, since it should be moving, it should have steam, and gear wheels must function accordingly and not serve as a detail. I don't think that is a true steampunk, but it is more of the steampunk imitation. Something in metal and fantasy aesthetics that is closer to a style that is more associated with fiction. If someone told Dmitro Brahin that he will be making authentic masks 10 years ago, it would indeed have sounded like some kind of fiction. Although he finished art school, he chose a technical college and graduated as a gas-electric welder. The profession has its benefits. But Dmitro has not worked a single day as a specialist in this trade. Instead, he worked in the wholesale sector at a local market. I never had an artistic calling or a need for it until the moment when my wife started working in a creative sphere and asked me to help her. She started working with wool, making different objects and clothing. She asked me to help her. It went well, and we posted the results online. Dmitro realized that one can make money with such handmade items, so he tried to learn skills that would be interesting for him. He chanced upon some unusual motorcycles made from spare parts of a mechanical clock, and he tried to replicate them with materials that he had at home. I posted this motorcycle on my webpage. I received a lot of likes. A girl from Odessa immediately asked me about the price for the first motorcycle. Honestly, I was a bit confused. I wrote her the first figure that came to my head, 300 hryvnias. She replied that I should send it to her. Inspired by his first success, Dmitro manufactured 42 motorcycles over the next several months. One of these photos of this motorcycle created a real buzz in the online community of steampunk fans. While searching for some creative solution, the master learned that there is such a genre. My daughter had a carnival mask. I looked at it and decided to decorate a bit. I posted the photo on social media, and there was a lot of positive feedback from internet users. The basis of it was a plastic mask, and to this day I continue to use ones. The master himself doesn't count the number of masks he produced over 6 years. In an exclusive interview for UA TV, Dmitro Brahin tells where he finds the spare parts for steampunk images and how much metal he uses to create his works. Archaeologists found the oldest known masks in the Middle East and Europe. These masks were made from stone and, to put it mildly, are rather creepy. Scholars believe that 9,000 years ago they were used in rituals from which theatrical performances developed. The participants of the ritual used masks to represent their ancestors. Dmitro Brahin has his own ritual associated with masks. He often goes to the Kharkiv market of antiquities. Local citizens bring objects they inherited from their grandparents or great-grandfathers. First of all, alarm clocks have a whole variety of gear wheels that are double or triple decked and cannot be replicated. You can do it on a 3D printer, but it will take a lot of time and money. But it is possible to find them in clocks from the Soviet era. I also like to use toys from my works. Robots, dolls, motorcycles, cars, everything that has small spare parts and can be deconstructed or rebuilt. Dmitro evaluates objects differently, with his unique view. Once he had to disassemble a printer to pull out the necessary spare part. He has no specific scheme for the placement of elements or a sketch for the future project. Dmitro uses plastic masks as a base, which he can order online on websites dedicated to carnivals and festivals. He tried to create them with papier-mâché, but it turned out to be too time-consuming and an impractical method. The master appreciates working with plastic because it can be easily reshaped by melting. First of all, I should clean the mask, de-oil it, and then I can start gluing. However, for gluing, I need a starting point for it. For this, I have to focus on creating the main detail. It is easier for Dmitro to explain this process using a specific example. This mask started with a photo camera, or rather its lens, which I bought at a street market. I disassembled it, and I already had a skull mask, plastic one. Then I imagined this lens as an eye. Next, I thought that I should make the second eye more realistic. Then he used gear wheels and other spare parts. The master always glues them manually according to his inner sense of composition. In this collage, one can find unexpected elements. I don't even recall, but I think the nose is made from a children's motorcycle or some toy. I can see here that the headphone was cut and changed to match the size of the head. The tube is actually a corrugated tube, especially for protection of the wires. Brutal clinchers are in fact made from cardboard. The metallic spare parts in the masks of Dmitro Brahin can be counted on one hand. They could be lenses of a camera or a spare part from a clock. As a result, the mask is very light in weight, only 200 or 300 grams. When everything is ready, I apply contour paint to all these clinchers that should dry for several days. Dmitro uses brushes after the ground layer is dried. He uses bronze or silver light-reflecting acrylic paint for this work. You should dip the brush into paint, rub it almost dry on paper, and then the several layers of the paint are applied. That's all. That's the whole secret. The deep layer remains dark, the layer at the top becomes lighter, and this gives the impression that more paint was applied to the surface. The last layer is polished. Dmitro uses car polish for his works. His wife Alexandra binds leather straps to the materials. The master always experiments with different materials, and sometimes he adds some electronic details. One time a client requested him to make a mask of a plague doctor in his style, though with specific details. A simple mask without any decoration, but with wires of different colors glowing on the mask. Wires of different colors on the surface of the metal, or rather metal imitations, looked quite horrible in such a combination. For this simple reason, I was not that interested in taking this order. Dmitro never makes masks on demand with a specific technical request. After all, he highly values his personal vision and his work in the creative process. The customer that cancelled the order inspired the master to approach light in a totally different manner. I used the idea that he gave me to use some neon wire that works on batteries, so I made a backlight and I simply put it into the eyes. The skull on the forehead is often used in accessories. Other elements were used as toy details. There was a parrot with wings that spread once you push the button. You can see that the details are from a children's motorcycle, and you can clearly see the pattern of the exhaust pipe and the engine. There is a gear wheel of a motorcycle and a car. But this thing here is serious business. The table in Dmitro's workshop is decorated with a brutal stand for brushes in the form of a skull. It looks quite impressive until the moment when you learn where he finds the details for it. I believe it is called Antoshka's skull. A Belarusian magazine published a series titled Do It Yourself, a skeleton. In one of the issues, there was an element of the lower part of his skull. In another issue, there was an eye. In the third issue, there was a joint. And in the fourth issue, there was a skull cap. My wife was horrified. Why did you do this? It's scary. Who needs it for that price? The first day I posted the offer, it was bought by a Canadian illusionist. The major part of Dmitro's works is shipped overseas. His masks, notebooks, bow ties and pistols are in high demand in the US, where people wear them at festivals. Europeans can enjoy Steampunk establishment in Prague, where Dmitro designed dozens of menu covers and other elements. Every menu is completely unique. I used sprockets and plastic details. They ordered about 20 signs reserved that also had to be decorated and included an inscription. They were so thrilled that they ordered these masks right before their grand opening, 10 of them. It is hard for Dmitro to make a mask series, not because he is working alone, but because he is not interested in making the same objects that are always new and interesting. I cannot repeat myself. If I made a plague doctor mask, next I will create dozens of other objects. I have a strict principle of never repeating the objects that I made before, even in terms of their form. Who knows for which contemporary events or rituals these unique and inimitable masks created by this Ukrainian master will be in demand. Thank you very much. Well, here's to the good cause and to victory.
Да.